Hi, good afternoon and welcome to EMS's live chat here on the Gold Coast today, where we're going to be talking about studying, living and working on the Gold Coast in Australia. We're going to go into a few questions in a while, but the Gold Coast area of Australia is located in Queensland, which is about halfway up the coast and about an hour's drive from Brisbane. The population is just under 1 million here on the Gold Coast, and it's a bit of a tourist mecca or a tourist destination where a lot of international visitors, students and backpackers come to check out the beautiful beaches, to surf and see things like Australia's world famous start to the year in the surfing competition, the ASP Pro at Snapper Rocks, and as well as that, it's sort of a gateway to the mountains on the Gold Coast too. As an educational destination, the Gold Coast has a number of different universities and private education providers and TAFEs, as well as English schools that offer a range of different courses for international students to enjoy. As a location compared to Sydney or Melbourne and even Brisbane to an extent, it's a lot cheaper to live on the Gold Coast, with rent prices being probably about 20 to 25% cheaper than you would find in the bigger cities of Australia. And the other beautiful thing about the coast is that there's heaps of free things to do for international guests. I mean, even just looking along the beach in Surfers Paradise or Burleigh, you've got free barbecues on the beach that are set up by the council and cleaned every day. So we'll log in and we'll just get some of the feedback and questions that you guys might have for us, and we'll start answering some of your questions. So if you do have any questions, feel free just to type them in to our live chat, and we'll be able to answer these as we go along. Okay, so one question. Are the Commonwealth Games going to bring some work opportunities, and in which fields? So the Commonwealth Games is coming up in 2 years. Obviously the Olympics is in Rio this year, which is great for Brazil, but the Commonwealth Games will be located here on Australia's Gold Coast. And the Commonwealth Games is for all the Commonwealth countries of the world. So it's like a smaller version of the Olympic Games, but will still generate quite a lot of tourism to Australia from people around the world. And in doing so, between now and when the Commonwealth Games are on in 2018, we'll start to see a lot more, job opportunities in construction, development, and then when the Games are on, a lot more workers will be needed in areas like hospitality as well. As a destination, the Gold Coast is already probably one of Australia's top tourist destinations, receiving thousands and thousands of visitors each year. So if you were a student on the Gold Coast, the kind of jobs that you would be looking to find would be things like working in restaurants, maybe in waiting roles, or working as kitchen hands or as chefs, and also in hotels and resorts as well, doing everything from housekeeping to front desk to back office. We even have some of our clients who work as tour guides in other areas as well, working with tourists when they come into here. So while we're waiting for some more questions to come in, we might talk a little bit about the educational opportunities that they have here on the Gold Coast. From an English school providers, you've got a range of English school providers on the Gold Coast, ranging from Langports to Browns to Imagine, and a lot of these schools offer courses both in the morning and in the afternoon. So the flexibility that provides allows students to, say, study for one part of the day and work in the other part of the day. And one of the other benefits of being a student, I guess, in Australia is that you can work up to 20 hours a week while you're in session, while your course is in session, and then full-time during holidays. So if you were doing, say, a 6-month English course, you could study for your 6 months, and then whenever you had your gap of maybe a month at the end of the course, you could work full-time during that period. So also moving on from English, I guess the Gold Coast also has a range of vocational education providers as well. So vocational courses, for those of you that don't know, are generally courses that range from certificates through to diplomas and advanced diplomas. Okay, now the Gold Coast has a pretty wide variety of certificate courses. It's grown quite a lot in the last few years. But here on the Gold Coast, you can study everything from certificates, 1 to 4 in things like surfing, capoeira, other sports as well, do yoga. As well as that, you can do the general ones that are more common, Australia-wide, which include business, English, marketing, project management, And then if you move on to the trades, they've also got a lot of schools offering courses like TAFE in carpentry, also courses to be a mechanic. A chef is also a really popular one here on the Gold Coast because it's a tourist destination. It's quite easy for people to find work once they're doing their course in restaurants to gain the experience they need to then move through, say, studying their Certificate 4 and diploma in commercial cookery, and then sort of pathway their way onto a 485 or a graduate visa that allows them to then move on and work. And if they get the experience they need and the points, they can then move on and apply for residency. So that kind of covers some of the vocational courses that are available here on the Gold Coast. And then as well as that, you've got a range of universities that have campuses here on the Gold Coast too. The biggest of the campuses would probably be Griffith University, which is located here on the Gold Coast and caters both to domestic and international students. Bond University, which is located at Robina, and again caters to domestic and international students. Bond is a private university and has beautiful campuses out there at Robina. And then you've got Southern Cross University, which is located on the southern end of the Gold Coast down at Coolangatta and Tweed. All of the universities that they have here on the Gold Coast offer a range of graduate or bachelor through to graduate diploma, bachelor and master's courses. And our education team on the Gold Coast, made up of Laura and Eva, can always assist you if you are looking to enrol and study. Okay, so we have a question. I'm coming from Spain and I have no studies as a chef, but I have some work experience. If I study a course in hospitality, can I get a sponsor and apply for a skill visa? Okay, Zali, great question. So we actually were talking through this with an employer today. So if you were to say, come and study a course, say a Certificate 3, or even better, say a Certificate 4 in commercial cookery here on the Gold Coast, having that Certificate 4 would then be the basic requirement you would need to be sponsored, say, onto a 457 visa if you wanted to work as a chef. And if you were able to find an employer to sponsor you, you could potentially be sponsored by that employer in a regional area directly for permanent residency after you've finished the Certificate 4. Generally, what we would advise clients to do would be probably to enroll in a package of courses. So it might be the Certificate 3 and 4 and diploma of commercial cookery and then hospitality, and that would give you a visa for a period of 2 years. At the end of that Certificate 4, say the first year of study, if you were able to find a sponsor, you could potentially be sponsored for a 457 or for regional sponsorship. However, if you didn't find a sponsor, kept working, getting part-time experience and finished the 2 years, you'd then be eligible to apply for a provisional skills assessment with the Skills Assessing Authority as a chef, and that would enable you then to apply for a visa that would allow you to work for 1.5 years. And if during that time you could get 1 year of experience and you had enough points, you could then apply for residency. And again, one of our team can help you in assisting that. So if you contact Gold Coast at emsaus.com, one of our education team members can give you some advice on the different courses that are available here on the Gold Coast. Hi, I want to ask, because I'm finished enrolled nursing this November, is there a possibility I can apply for permanent residency? Enrolled nurses on the Seasol here in Queensland and on the Sol in New South Wales, or apply for a temporary graduate visa. Okay, Marion, thank you for your question. Enrolled nursing isn't on the skilled occupation list, so it's not on the main SOL, it is on the CSOL. So what that means is that if you're able to get a skills assessment, say registration and a skills assessment as an enrolled nurse, then there is potential that certain states may sponsor your occupation. Now, each state is different with respects to what they require enrolled nurses to have for that state sponsorship. Generally speaking, if you are an enrolled nurse, you are on the CSOL, so you can apply for employer sponsorship. So that might be temporary employer sponsorship, as in if you're able to find someone to sponsor you for a 457 visa, or if you're able to find an employer in a regional area, let's say northern New South Wales or maybe the Sunshine Coast, and you can go through the regional certifying body application, nomination and visa application, then that employer can potentially sponsor you for permanent residency too. So there is possibilities as an enrolled nurse. Generally speaking, though, the possibilities are better if you're a registered nurse. So if you were to go on and continue an extra year and a half or 2 years of study to be a registered nurse is actually the number one occupation in demand in Australia. And every year the number seems to be increasing. I think it's up to about 16,000 this year that we need as registered nurses. So continuing your studies may provide you with more opportunities whereby you don't need state sponsorship or employer sponsorship in order to gain residency. So just getting back to it, with respects to state sponsorship, yes, you may be on the list in certain states, like let's say New South Wales, but there's no guarantee you would gain state sponsorship. So what you could do is, if we got you a skills assessment as an enrolled nurse, we could potentially put you in the pool to see if you get an invitation to apply with New South Wales. But while you're doing that, you can also continue to keep your studies. So we're actually keeping two options open for you. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, Ali. My name is Alicia and I'm a physicist, and I've been living in the Gold Coast for 3 years. My boyfriend is Australian. We're trying to figure out the best way to get permanent residency because I would like to study a master's here. It's very expensive, so are there any skill visa I can apply for, or would it be better to do the de facto visa? So thank you for your question, Ali. So there's two edges to your question. With respects to your degree, or you being a physicist, we'd really need to have a little bit more of a look into what your qualification was that qualified you to be a physicist, and also how much experience you had, and then see as to whether there were possibilities for you to apply for state sponsorship or potentially for employer sponsorship as a physicist. If you're able to do either of those two things, let me just have a look at one quick thing. And also to know, I guess, is whether you're a medical physicist, because there's different opportunities for different types of physicists. So again, in that situation, what we would need to do is know a little bit more about your occupation and whether it was a medical physicist or what type of physicist you were, whether you had a qualification and experience, what your English level was. So it is possible, because medical physicist is on the skilled occupation list, that you could apply independently for residency, and that would probably be the quickest way to go if you met those requirements. If not, then we could also look at other options, which may be the employer sponsorship. Now, moving over to the partner visa, with a partner visa, the process is generally temporary residency for 2 years, and then you would pathway to permanent residency. But if you could show proof that you're in a long-term relationship with your partner and that you've been living together for a certain period of time, had shared a mutual commitment and a joint life together, then there may be possibilities to go directly for permanent residency. Now, either way, the current processing time is probably anywhere between 9 and 15 months for a partner visa at the moment. So it is still going to take you a little bit of time. As soon as you've lodged that application, though, you would be eligible for Medicare, which would obviously make things a little bit easier. And you would also be able to work full time. I'm not sure. Let me just have a look what visa you're currently on. It doesn't say what visa you're currently on. But yeah, so the de facto visa could generally be a good pathway to residency, but it would take at least 12 months to be granted. If you could show that you had the long-term relationship, then it could potentially be straight to permanent residency, which would obviously make study cheaper. If, for example, you're a medical physicist, for example, we could get you the skills assessment, you had the English score, it could be as quick as sort of 6 to 8 months to get permanent residency. So it could be a little bit quicker. But again, best thing to do would be to book a meeting and come in and see one of our agents so we can really analyse your case and map out all the possible pathways available. So, next question. I am a chef and wondering what I have to do to get PR at the Gold Coast or Byron Bay. So we kind of answered that question before, but I will talk about it a little bit more. Again, as being a chef, it depends on your experience. To qualify as a chef, you either need to have a qualification equal to a certificate for overseas and 3 years full-time experience after graduation, or you need to have studied in Australia for the period of 2 years, got 1 year full-time experience after your graduation, and then you would meet the requirements to apply independently for skilled migration. Now, if you're able to finish that certificate for, like I said, you could be sponsored, say, in a regional area like Byron Bay directly for residency. In the Gold Coast, unless you had that full skills assessment and the 3 years full-time experience, you would have to be temporarily sponsored, say, onto a 457 visa first. So I hope that one helps. All right, thanks, Marion. Okay, pleasure. No, the temporary graduate visa, you have to have an occupation on the main skilled occupation list to go for the graduate 485, the graduate work, or you have to have done 2 years of study towards a bachelor or master's to go for the post-study work. So that was, Marion, answer your question. I think your first question, Marion, was about enrolled nurse. So no, enrolled nurse isn't an occupation that's high enough to enable you to apply for a graduate visa. Kim, what are the requirements of a startup small accounting company to sponsor an employee in Brisbane? Do they need to have a certain turnover or something? And do they need to pay a fee? Kim. Okay, Kim, so I'm not sure if this is your business or you're looking how you're looking at it. First and foremost, employer sponsorship under, say, a visa like a 457 visa is designed to allow workers to come into Australia to fill gaps in the economy. So it's a pretty widely used visa. There's over 100,000 people, or about 100,000 people in the country on that visa now. There's not a set turnover amount, but the business needs to show that it's legally operating. It needs to show that it has the financial capacity to employ the team member that you're talking about, to pay their salaries, to meet its requirements. It also needs to show that it's training Australians to, say, 1% of their payroll if they're actually undertaking training. So that means all of their wages. If, say, for example, they were paying for someone to do their course, that would count towards training. Or if they employed trainees, that would also count towards training. If they're not currently undertaking training, then they can also pay 2% to a training fund. Okay, so that's generally the first stage, which is the standard business sponsorship. The nomination, which is the second stage, would be where they would prove that the position is a genuine position in the organisation. So if it was an accounting firm and they had other accountants working there, they had enough work to justify it, and they showed the position was genuine, then that would generally meet the requirements. They would also need to pay a minimum salary of about $53,900 or equal to what they would pay in Australia in a similar role. Okay, so it is possible for a small business to do it. The applicant would then need to have the skills needed in that occupation. So in essence, it would probably be equivalent to a bachelor in accounting, so that they could prove that they could do that position. So I hope that answered that question, Kim. Can I live in a regional area but study in a non-regional area and get points? No. So if we're talking about the points for skill migration under the test, you need to study and live in a regional area. So for example, if you were studying and living on the Sunshine Coast, that would count as a regional area. If you were studying living, say, in Lismore, that would count as a regional area. But if it was, say, the Gold Coast or Brisbane, then that wouldn't count as a regional area. Now, you would have to study the 2 years in duration in those areas for it to count. So unfortunately, you couldn't just move to a regional area after 1 year of study and study. It would have to be for the period of your studies in that regional area. Okay. At this space, I have a question. My friend just finished a diploma in leadership and management and diploma in marketing and is a journalist back home. Can she study in the Gold Coast early childhood? Can she study in the Gold Coast an early childhood diploma so she can apply for the skilled occupation list? She has been here for 4 years. Okay, so answering your question, Santiago, yeah, there's nothing to stop a student continuing to study during their time in Australia. Immigration does look to see if the study makes sense. So if a student bounces around and does a lot of different areas, then it can be more of a challenge to get their next visa. So it's really important that you work with a good education agent to help map out a pathway as to why it makes sense, and also to help you prove that you're a genuine temporary entrant, which is a requirement of a student visa. Early childhood study is a bit of a tricky one. So if you were to study the early childhood diploma for 2 years, and you got experience for at least 360 hours during your studies, doesn't have to be as a manager, but it would qualify you to get a provisional assessment as a childcare centre manager, okay? So it's similar in the way that it's assessed to, say, some of the other trades like commercial cookery, to be a chef, or mechanic or carpenter. The difference though is the occupation that's on the skilled occupation list is childcare centre manager. So during your time on that graduate visa, you would have to find 1 year of experience as a manager. And that can be a little bit more difficult, obviously, than just trying to find experience as, say, a chef or as a mechanic, because a manager is at the top of the pile. So in a childcare centre, there's generally one manager, maybe an assistant manager, and then there would be other positions like group leaders and things, and then assistants underneath. So whereas courses like, or trade courses are more commonly used to study through a pathway towards residency, childcare can lead to the graduate visa. And what we more commonly see with people that have studied childcare is that they would then find a job in a regional area, and in a regional area they can be sponsored for one of those positions slightly down, which is group leader, and if the centre's willing, they can sponsor them for permanent residency in that regional area as a childcare group leader rather than a manager. So that would generally be the option that we would see more frequently. Okay, so Marianne, does your agency help me with the right path I could take? Definitely, Marianne. I mean, one of the things we do is we as an agency will listen to, I guess, what you've done, where you're at, where you've been, and in our meetings with our migration team, we'll map out pathways that may work for you to get to where you want to get to. Every case is different, just like every person is different. So what we generally do to start with is we get some information from you, and then at our meeting, we listen to where you've been, what you've done, what you're interested in, and then we try and figure out the best pathway that you could follow to get to what your ultimate goals, I guess, or dreams are when it comes to study or migration. All right, so we'll see if any more questions pop up. So if we look out the window right now on the Gold Coast, we're located in Southport, off of 1703 56 Scarborough Street. And if you look out over Marina Mirage and the Southport Yacht Club, there's a big rainbow just starting to appear coming up out of the ocean. So it's not as wet and wild as it was a little bit earlier. Okay, so Alicia, we've got another question from you here. I've been all this time as student visa, first to study an English course, then certificates in fitness, not because I was specifically interested, because it was quick and not very expensive way to stay here. Given that I can't afford a master's in music, what do I do? My current student visa expires in February 2017. So if I was to cancel my visa, would I have the right to work full-time until my partner visa is obtained? Okay, so Alicia, on that note, if you were to, generally speaking, you wouldn't cancel your student visa. So your student visa is still going to be effective until February next year. So if you were to cancel your course, there would be a chance that immigration could cancel your student visa. Now, if you'd already applied for a partner visa, then there's probably little chance that, if you'd already applied for a partner visa, then you would get a bridging visa, but it would sit underneath and your student visa would still be your main visa. So if your student visa was cancelled, the biggest impact it would have on you is that you would generally become unlawful and go to a bridging visa E, which would still allow you to stay in Australia while your partner visa was being assessed. However, you would have to wait sort of 4 years from the date your partner visa was granted if you wanted to apply for citizenship. So I'm not sure where you're from and whether citizenship's a big thing. So yeah, there is a little bit of risk if you do cancel your course that your student visa would be cancelled. We've seen, just to be more, I guess, independent about it, we've seen cases where people have chosen to stop studying and to work, say 6 months out, like about where you're at, and their visa hasn't been cancelled. But obviously, you know, with immigration, you can never be certain one way or the other. So there is always a risk that if they did cancel your visa, you would face those consequences of having a delayed time to be able to apply for your citizenship. And also, when your bridging visa E, if your other bridging visa or your visa is cancelled, you won't be able to travel in and out of the country either, and you may have to apply for work rights. Okay, so Kim, getting back to it, I'm currently employed in a small accounting firm, and in Brisbane and hoping to apply for employer sponsorship, but I'm not quite sure as I haven't asked my employer yet. If not possible, is a relative sponsoring still effective for an accounting graduate as a relative living in Melbourne, which is a regional area? Or should I go for the independent? Lots of questions there. All right, so Kim, listen, I mean, in your case, again, if you were to come in for a consultation, we could map out all those pathways and tell you what's possible and what's not. Quickly speaking, on the business front, we would explain to you what's required of the business and whether we thought it was possible based on the information you gave us. Employer sponsorship, or not employer sponsorship, family sponsorship from a relative is possible, but what we saw last year is that it decreased from maybe 160 places for family sponsorship for the 489 visa a month down to about 10 places. So what that meant is that there was a lot less places being given for family sponsorship, and I think we've seen the same with the start to this year as well. So with family sponsorship in areas like accounting, towards the end of the year, no places were being given because all the places were being taken up by independent, the 189 visa. As it stands at the moment, Kim, you're probably going to be needing 65 points plus as an accountant to get an invitation. So what that might mean is finishing your study, getting 1 year experience and academic IELTS of 7 if you're in that age bracket of 25 to 32. But we could also do that and apply for the family sponsorship at the same time and see which one came first. So what we try and do is keep your options open on all fronts. Okay. Marion, generally our consultation fee is $150 to go through your case in detail, map out all the pathways. So the reason we don't provide, I guess, free consultations like some agencies do is we value the advice that we give you. So we give you very detailed and specific advice on your pathway forward and how we can assist in that process, but also it gives you a clear picture of where you're going. And I'll give you an example from a couple of weeks ago. We had a client come in who had been to see an agent the year before. Now, when we went through their case, she was actually dependent on her husband's visa, but we realised that in February last year, she would have been eligible to apply based on the studies she's done for an independent visa for herself because she had done 2 years of study, or even the 485 graduate work because she'd done 2 years of study. Now, she wasn't given that information in her first meeting, and based on that, she didn't qualify for the graduate visa because it had been too long. So she's now working on her IELTS to try and go towards residency, but was unaware of this. So we do quite a lot of research on our meetings to make sure that we give our clients the best advice. Corinne, hello, where in Brisbane is your agency located and around? So I just covered the price, Corinne. Our office in Brisbane is located on 359 Queen Street, level 7. So it's right near where James Cook University is. It's on the 7th floor and it's open from 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. Generally, it's best to give us some information first and book in for an appointment. The reason I say that is if in the consultation, our aim is to give you as much information as possible. So if we know a bit more about you before you come in, then we're able to provide you a bit more advice as to where you should go. I should say that migration appointments do bear a cost, but education is free. So if we're enrolling you to study in a course, then all the services we provide with helping you find a course, enrolling in the course, and even applying for the visa and us talking to immigration on your behalf is all free of charge, okay? Now, the benefit that has as well is that our education team and our migration team, we're all friends, we're all linked, we're all in the same office so that we're talking to each other as well. So if they have a question regarding your case and if they think that you might be a good case for migration or a certain other possibility, then they'll let us know as well and we might arrange a migration appointment. Similarly, we from time to time have job opportunities like we did today for chefs come up. And with the job opportunities we have for chefs, what we'll do is we'll put those out to our clients first so that if they meet those requirements and the company is interested in sponsoring them, then it gives them, I guess, first opportunity to take those jobs as they become available. Okay, so next question. A friend in Europe who wants to come, she's in the fitness sector. Are there any opportunities in the Gold Coast? Yeah, I mean, as with anywhere, there's definitely opportunities in the fitness sector. One thing that you'll notice about Australia and the Gold Coast is there's a lot of beautiful people. So people like to stay fit and out and about. And they also run a lot of classes here in parks along the coast. So there is a lot of opportunities. We have some clients that work as Zumba instructors, others that work at yoga instructors as well. Not sure exactly what it is that your friend does, but there is definitely opportunities here on the Gold Coast. As an area, I guess, there tends to be quite a lot of fit people around and opportunities, I guess, that would range from gyms to also private sort of studios that do courses and things like that for people. See, there are a few new changes. So we're releasing a blog article today that I thought I'd mention now, which is pretty important. So there were some big changes to student visas on the 1st of July. Now, the student visa changes that came in on the 1st of July, in a lot of ways, have made it a lot more simple for international people to apply for student visas. Now, one of the big changes that we were talking about earlier in the offers relates to the working holiday market, specifically those people that are on 462 working holiday visas that might be from countries like Argentina or the US, and people who generally would have had to leave Australia to apply for their first working holiday visa. Now, under the new system, the people on these visas and even on tourist visas are able to apply for their first student visa in Australia. So what that means is that what we've had in the past is a lot of our clients, say from Argentina or from Chile, who have been here, who have had fun on their working holiday, decided they wanted to enroll in a course to study, but they had to leave the country to apply for that. That's no longer the case. As long as you've got a visa and as long as there's no further stay on the visa, you can apply for that your first student visa in Australia. So what that means is that if you're from any of those countries, even Spain, Thailand, Turkey, USA, Uruguay, Portugal, Poland, Malaysia, Israel, Indonesia, China, Chile, Bangladesh or Argentina, you can apply for your first student visa in Australia now. So that's a pretty significant win for you guys, because obviously it costs a lot of money to go in and out of Australia. And while your application's being dealt with in Australia, you can stay here on a bridging visa as well. So it then allows you to continue your time in Australia without having to leave. So we can talk a little bit more maybe about the lifestyle on the Gold Coast. Some of you may or may not be aware, but yeah, the Gold Coast, like we were saying earlier, is substantially, well, let's say about 20% cheaper, maybe than the bigger cities in Australia. Now, because it's a tourist area, it's very hospitality focused. So a lot, like we were saying earlier, of the jobs are in the hospitality industry. Now, generally speaking, when students first come to Australia, because we're a little isolated island in the middle of the Pacific, most people in Australia speak English as their first language. So if your English isn't as good when you first arrive, it doesn't mean that you won't be able to find work. It just means that your work may be in roles where English language isn't required as much. So this may be the possibility of cleaning in housekeeping, or maybe working as a kitchen hand in a kitchen. And as your English improves, then it provides you with more opportunities, I guess, to increase your English language, increase your job opportunities as it gets better. Being a tourist area, there are also avenues for you to use your language skills from other countries, maybe in areas where they have, say, tourists from your destination coming to Australia. Now, the other beautiful thing about Australia and the Gold Coast in general is that the weather is amazing for pretty much 9 months of the year. I'm actually flying out to go to the UK tonight, and I got a message from a friend half an hour ago saying it was 21 degrees, and that's the middle of their summer. And that's pretty much the weather we had all weekend here on the Gold Coast, was about 22 degrees, and that's the middle of our winter. It's still possible, I don't, but it's still possible to go swimming just in shorts in winter on the Gold Coast. And like I was saying earlier, like it's a destination that's kind of focused around the beaches, okay? There's 33 kilometres of beaches on the Gold Coast. You may be an hour from Byron Bay, if you want to do a little road trip down to Byron Bay, or if you want to get up to the city and see some more music or some extra cultural activities, you're only about an hour up to Brisbane as well. Now, the Gold Coast has pretty good public transport, especially if you're in the northern end of the Gold Coast. They've got a light rail that runs all the way out to the university and all the way down to Broadbeach, which they're planning to extend as well. And then you have buses that will take you all the way along to the southern end of the coast, to Coolangatta, where we have a major international airport there at Coolangatta, where you can fly in and out of other parts of Australia, or also in and out of parts of the world from that place. But generally speaking, I would talk to your school about trying to get an extended COE, okay? Or if you're interested, like we were talking about earlier, in enrolling in the bachelor degree, maybe come in and see one of our education team. Like I said, it's free of charge, and they can help you if you wanted to enroll in the bachelor starting next year. They could help you enroll in that course, and then we could extend your visa to the end of that course. The thing with the student visas, or temporary visas, there is an extra $700 fee that you do have to pay if you are extending a temporary visa on shore, plus the actual visa application fee. So getting a longer visa would try and help you avoid that if you were able to do that. So if you just wanted to do the enrolled nursing, then I'd talk to the school about extending the COE until your placement finished. But better, I would say, is that if you were thinking about doing the degree as a registered nurse, come in and see one of the team, and they can help you extend your visa until the end of that course as well. If during that time you find a sponsor, that's fine. But at least this way, it would give you the opportunity to be a little bit more safe and secure with a longer visa there as well. Is Peru included on your first student visa? So yeah, listen, with the new student visa is if you haven't, Corinne, had a student visa before and you are in Australia on another visa, then you can apply for that first student visa in Australia. Now, the only condition, or the main condition I should say to watch out for, would be a no further stay condition, which is an 8503 or an 8534. Sometimes that's put onto visas, generally on tourist visas and on some student visas. But those no further stay mean that you can't apply for that first student visa in Australia. But if, for example, you're already here and you're on a tourist visa, then by all means come in and see our team, and they can have a look at it for you. And again, those services are free of charge, and then with that, they would be able to help you in enrolling in the course and applying for your first student visa here in Australia. We'll be trying to do these live chat for the next few weeks or over the next few months as well. If you have any topics or areas that you're interested in, you can always send us an email either to goldcoast@emsaus.com or to promotions@emsaus.com. And we can obviously be of assistance there in trying to tailor the live chats to answer more of the questions that you want to hear, I guess, so that we're here. Now, on that note, the other thing that we have as an organisation is we have a lot of events coming up. We have events, for example, that we'll be covering tax seminars. So for those of you that are working in Australia and don't know how to do your tax returns, we have tax seminars coming up, so you can log on to our Eventbrite page, which is emsaus.eventbrite, brite.com.au, and on that page you'll see a list of all the different events we have coming up. So that can be tax seminars. We also have free migration seminars. We're going to have post-study work visa seminars. Stay tuned to that page as well, because we're also going to be having a lot more events for professionals too. So potentially in early August with some partners, we might having an event that's targeted and I guess geared around engineers finding employment in Australia, and we'll be possibly working with another organisation to have some professional engineers come in and talk about how they transitioned from, say, being an international person to finding work in Australia, just to help you guys on that journey, which can sometimes be a challenge, transitioning from, I guess, life and your working career in your home country into life and your working career in Australia as well. And I guess they'll be there to share their stories around how they did it as well. All right, so I think we've sort of run out of questions for the time being. So what we might do is wrap it up. Thank you to everyone that wrote in your questions. Like I said, we're Education and Migration Services Australia. We're here to assist you, I guess, in achieving the goals you want to achieve in Australia, whether that be education or migration. Office is located in Brisbane, the Gold Coast, and in Melbourne, and our website is www.emsaus.com, and we look forward to helping you in your process. Thank you.